One of my most frequently asked questions from people is, when can I phase out treats? And this is a really good question. So, in order to think about this or conceptualize it, let's think how we might phase out unwanted behavior. Well, we would stop reinforcing that behavior. So, if you don't want to see a behavior, you shouldn't reinforce that behavior. Well, I think you can now see the mistake here. Oops, the opposite is then true. If we want to keep seeing a behavior, we need to keep reinforcing that behavior. Which you might be thinking when you hear that, but I've heard if I don't reward a behavior all the time, then it's like a slot machine, right? Who hasn't heard that in a puppy training class? Your dog trainer is standing up there and they say, "Well, you should only reward intermittently." And then it's like a casino game or a slot machine, and the dog will want to do it even more. The truth is, I know a lot of dog trainers who say this in a class and who would never do it with their own dog. And the reason is that this whole casino rumor is mostly false. It's not true for about 99% of contexts in which we want our dogs to do something. The reason this rumor in theory is right, but in practicality is wrong, is this. The payout for not listening to you is most likely a much more biologically addicting scenario. So think of chasing a squirrel instead of doing recall, or dragging you on leash to go greet another dog. The payout, the slot machine payout for not listening to you, times that's so much more rewarding and biologically addicting to them than anything we could manufacture or create. So if you really want to play like this kind of casino game with your dog, then always reward, but sometimes a jackpot reward. So give them consistent rewards for doing a behavior, but every once in a while, make it the best reward they can imagine. It is also worth noting that I often hear this from dog guardians as what is ultimately an excuse not to reward good behavior because they're being a little bit lazy about that. So when we think about phasing out treats, the first thing we want to consider is that we need to keep reinforcing behavior in order to continue seeing that behavior. The second thing we want to think about is that you need to feed your dogs every day for the rest of their life anyway. That's not optional, that's part of just owning a dog. And as a behavior gains a longer reinforcement history, it becomes easier and easier to maintain it, and smaller reinforcements will maintain that behavior. First couple times I ask my dog to sit when they're a puppy, I might need to use cheese or hot dogs, and I might need to make it really exciting. But my dogs are seniors now. Their reinforcement history for sit is so long and so consistent that at this point, oftentimes when I ask them to sit, I just use a piece of kibble. So, what reinforcement was required at the beginning for them to learn a skill is not the reinforcement that is necessary to maintain a skill once you've built up a good reinforcement history. Easy, well rehearsed behaviors can be maintained with mostly just kibble and an occasional treat. And the third thing is that not everything needs to be a food reward. Environmental rewards, praise, and games are all reinforcement as well. So, treats are not the only way you can maintain a behavior. You can also use things like smells on a walk or saying hello to a new person or dog, toys, praise, pets, anything your dog likes. Just make sure it's something your dog actually likes. I think there's a useful story here of a client I had where they wanted petting their dog to be reinforcement for that dog out on a walk or sitting while other dogs walked by. So I asked them to show me what that looked like outside of their house. And I always record training sessions. So I recorded a video of them asking their dog to sit outside, and then they went and patted the dog's head. And when we played back the video, it was very obvious to see that the dog's ears went back. They kind of put their head down a little bit. They didn't even like the petting, which means that if anything, that's not reinforcing that behavior, it's discouraging that behavior. And in reality, it was just that the person didn't want to bring treats with them out on a walk. They couldn't forget their hands, but they often forgot their treat pouch. So it was truly just laziness from the human. The advice I would give people who are tempted to try to use these environmental rewards as a way to get out of needing to bring treats is to make the environmental rewards harder than bringing treats. I'll give you an example with my own dog. So Briggs loves stuffed animals and he loves playing this game called Find, where he finds a scent in a stuffed animal. It's a game we've played in the home, we've played in classes. He loves this game so much. So I brought him to the woods, but what he didn't realize is that ahead of time I had hidden a couple of his scent stuffed animals. As we're out there, I ask him to come to me, I ask him to sit, and then I say the magic words, Briggs, find. And he runs off and gets to find his favorite stuffy using this scent game, which is just the best game for him. And then we play tug a little bit. That setup was much harder for me than just grabbing some cheese and sticking it in my treat pouch or grabbing some treats and throwing it in my treat pouch. If your environmental reward is easier than bringing treats, you might accidentally be mistaking stinginess for savviness.